All right, let's talk some Tide, and we love doing just that with Stephen M. Smith of TouchdownAlabama.com. Please join Stephen on his show Monday, Wednesday, and Friday night. In my own words, right here on YouTube, 6:30 Central Time. Stephen, how you doing today?
Doing great, Mark. Doing fantastic. We got the Alabama LSU game on Saturday, and though in years past this game would be a highly competitive game, it would have college game day in the mix. Everybody would be talking about this particular game, but even though LSU 4-4, that team is going to come into Tuscaloosa rallying behind its head coach Ed Orgeron. This will be his last Alabama LSU matchup.
Yeah, LSU obviously a few weeks ago showed that it could explode on occasion, ripped up Florida 49-42, and also had that game against Auburn that even though they lost, they were the better team on the field for most of the game before they blew it late against Bo Nix and company. So still a lot of talent on that LSU roster. And speaking of which, Stephen, maybe the most important aspect of this game, considering that Alabama always recruits at the best level and LSU's right there in the top five typically, is the recruiting portion of this, and a big weekend in Tuscaloosa in regards to the top recruits. And I'm sure many of them have both of these schools on the board.
Oh, absolutely. And this, Mark, is a huge game for MSU. Even if it does not win, if it can be really competitive in this game, then whoever the coach will be after it all is finished with this season, that coach can go out there and tell these recruits, hey, we came up just short against Alabama, but you can be that piece to get us back to where we need to be at, and that is continuously being in contention for national championships. There will be several visitors in Tuscaloosa. I know Alabama recently has gotten the four-star defensive line prospect and Walter Bob from Louisiana to commit to the Tide for 2022. It also has the four-star, very talented wide receiver, Aaron Anderson, one of the top receiving prospects from the state of Louisiana, committed to Alabama as well. There's going to be several guys on campus, several official and non-official visitors at Bryant-Denny Stadium. For LSU, the main thing for it is going to be, can it be as competitive as possible? Can it get some big plays? Can it create some type of energy where even with, like I said, Coach O gone after this year, this game is pivotal where you're trying to keep as many as those in-state kids in Louisiana as possible.
In 2018, before Joe Burrow was Joe Burrow, of course, Alabama went down and blew out the Tigers 29-0, and that was still quite a feat considering that LSU team won a major bowl game and finished in the top 6 in the country. Of course, Burrow came back and beat Tua in that tremendous 46-41 game that they had to stave off the Alabama comeback in Tuscaloosa. Then last year was back to a 38-point margin, 55-17. And again, Saturday looks to be more the same on primetime on ESPN, as Alabama's a 28-29 point favorite. That said, Stephen, what are you looking for in this game from the Tide as they continue to try to ready themselves for the stretch drive, Auburn, and the SEC championship game?
Well, the number one thing, Mark, defensively, coming off a bye week, how has Alabama improved the communication, the alignment, the style of play on the field? During the preseason, the conversation was this was going to be one of Coach Saban's best defenses on paper. And it still has a chance to improve it and salvage it and get some things turned around as we head down the stretch. But coming out of the bye week, it's going to be how well can this group communicate across the board? How well can this group pull out of the ball, make plays, make consistent plays, get everybody lined up and attack opposing offenses on the field? We have seen moments where it was the first quarter against Florida of a defense played well. We've seen it against Miami and Mississippi State for full games. So the defense has done some good things. We saw in the first half against Ole Miss, the defense played well, but the thing has been, it hasn't been able to consistently do it game in and game out throughout the season the way Coach Saban would like to. Now, he's been proud of the attention to detail. He's been proud of the energy He's been proud of the focus from the bye week to this week. But the main thing here, Mark, is coming out of this bye week, facing an LSU team off the bat that has nothing to lose. Defensively for Alabama, can it go out there, communicate effectively, fly to the ball, make plays, be sound, and have an attacking mindset?
Folks, we went 13-5 against the spread this past weekend, 107-69 against the spread during the course of the 2021 season. Join us on Patreon. Please sign up there. Again, you get my picks, the picks of many media members, and again, Steve Merrill, Pro Sports Info, and his Under the Radar selection of the week. We got Stephen M. Smith on the line, touchdownalabama.com. Please join his show each and every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday nights, as I did this past week a couple times. Checked in on Stephen's show. Tremendous stuff right there. It's right here on YouTube at 6:30 Central Time, in my own words. Stephen, give us the update on the injury front. Drew Sanders has played 4 games this year out of 8, 14 tackles, 1 tackle for loss. What is his status?
Well, right now, that's one of the biggest pieces, Mark, of positive news here for the Crimson Tide. Sanders, who sustained a hand injury during the matchup against Ole Miss. He has missed a few games since then, but according to Coach Saban, has looked really strong in practice during the bye week, and this week he will have one final X-ray test on his hand coming up here on Friday. If he clears that test, he will play against LSU. I got a chance to actually talk with Drew Sanders' dad during the week of a Tennessee game, and his father told me he looked good in practice, he looked confident, he looks calm, he wants to be back out there on the field, he relishes being out there on the field. So he's practiced well, he's progressed well. The first X-ray looked good. Now he needs to clear one more hurdle on Friday. He clears that test there, he will play against LSU.
We've got the man, Stephen Smith, on the line, touchdownalabama.com. Join him on his show, In My Own Words, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, right here on YouTube at 6:30 Central Time. Stephen, of course, the unveiling of the initial college football playoff rankings, Alabama at number 2. I'm certainly on record in regards to my thoughts concerning the ranking, but we need to hear from you. So what do you think the committee has told us about Bama, not only for right now, but how that may help them down the line?
Well, to be honest with you, Mark, I thought the committee was going to put Alabama at 3. I did not think at first that they would jump Alabama over Cincinnati or pull Cincinnati out of the top 4 just due to how well Coach Luke Fickell, or quarterback Desmond Ridder, and that team has played this year, still being undefeated. So I did not think it would jump Alabama over Cincinnati or pull the Bearcats out. But going back to the committee's decision, it is, Alabama has quality schedules, got quality wins over teams that are in the CFP initial top 25 rankings. Even the loss to Texas A&M was a quality loss. The Aggies still continuing to win, and despite all the craziness that happened in that matchup, the Tide still had a chance to win that game despite it not happening. And then you also have to look at, more times than not in the playoffs, the committee sees how consistent Alabama is in the big moments, in the big games, and in the big spots. But then I also look at this. I think the committee has been influenced by a lot of the national eyeballs. What I mean by that, Mark, is if you look at a lot of the conversation, it's become the best 2 teams in college football, Georgia and Alabama. We all know it. We all sense it. Let's just move towards the SEC championship game potentially and get that matchup on the field and get that matchup inside Mercedes-Benz Stadium, because that's the matchup that we all kind of want to see. When you look at the storylines of Kirby Smart, can he finally crack the code on Nick Saban and get that first national championship? Can Nick Saban continue to keep Kirby Smart from winning a national championship? And then the biggest piece of it all, you've got this high-flying offense with Alabama with Bryce Young at quarterback, averaging 46 points per game. Can this be the offense to wear down a vaunted, dominant, attacking, marquee Georgia defense that's just stifling everybody? in college football. So I think at the end of the day, Mark, the committee kind of looked at, okay, the national talking heads, the national eyeballs are saying, this is the game people want to see. They want to see Alabama, Georgia. Let's go ahead and put Bama at number 2 behind Georgia and see how these chips fall right here. But then also, I go back to just the quality of schedule that Alabama has played, seeing a lot of the opponents that it's beaten still in that top 25. Even the loss of Texas A&M, a quality loss if the Aggies keep winning.
Of course, Alabama controls its own destiny. What this number 2 ranking says to me is that there is a possibility that Alabama, of course, runs the table through Auburn, goes to the SEC championship game, and loses, but loses a close classic game. Georgia, and of course, with wins over LSU and especially against Auburn and Arkansas, quality team, they will have cemented that number 2 position by that point. That a close loss to the consensus number 1 team in the country maybe keeps Alabama still in the top 4 despite a second loss.
I have looked at that as well, Mark, but then I also look at this from this clip also, and you brought it up, is the committee could be setting up a situation where, and I know people don't like to hear this, the possibility of 2 SEC teams in the playoffs. People have always talked about it. Why the SEC gets 2 teams in? Why we can't get more conferences involved? Expand the playoff. Let's go to 8 teams, 12 teams, 64 teams. We got to get more people in here than the usual suspects. But once again, if Alabama wants to run the table the rest of the regular season and get to the SEC championship and either beat Georgia in a classic close game, and that way you have a one-loss Georgia still in the SEC, still in the college football playoff, or like you mentioned, you have Alabama going to the SEC championship game, and it loses a tightly contested but a great atmosphere of a game against Georgia. Then you would have to look at that. So it could be a situation where the committee, as much as people do not want to see 2 SEC teams in the college football playoff, that can also be on the committee's mind.
I got one more scenario for you, Stephen, and this is a complete mess, but it's a fun one, at least from my vantage point. I don't necessarily think that these teams are quite up to it because I just think that there's too many difficult games to get through. But we do have a situation where Bama controls the division. However, Auburn only has 1 loss, so they, in a sense, control the division as well. Texas A&M, of course, has the head-to-head against Bama. Ole Miss is the other team with 2 losses. They still have some games against each other, most notably this weekend, a really good matchup, Auburn at Texas A&M. If the winner of that game continues to carry through and Auburn beats Alabama, regardless of whether Texas A&M's the team to run the table or Auburn runs the table, then you create a either 2-way tie, 3-way tie, something, maybe a 4, well, Ole Miss would lose to Texas A&M, possibly a 3-way tie, and then who knows? I don't know how that gets decided. I guess if Auburn beat the other 2, then they would go to the SEC championship game. But to me, that would be a whole lot of fun to see that get sorted out. Then you would have a 2-loss team in the SEC championship game. And if they win it, there's no question they go on to the playoff.
I mean, Mark, everybody loves chaos. This is what makes college football fun. This is what makes college football the sport that it is. People love to see chaos ensue and create ways and situations and scenarios of how can we get the most chaos. So if it goes down, Mark, the way the option you just displayed here, if it goes down like that, you're going to have everybody glued to a television screen because what type of chaos could we get?
Great stuff, as always, with Stephen M. Smith for Touchdown Alabama. I encourage you highly to head to his show, in my own words, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, right here on YouTube, 6:30 Central. And, of course, check out the work that they do there at touchdownalabama.com to get you set for the big LSU game on Saturday. Stephen, we appreciate you stopping by, as always.